Boom, and welcome back to another episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. We're coming back with a short video to discuss a interesting topic that the old man found on the topic of NIL, and specifically what the Battle's End is doing. As y'all know by now, the Battle's End is basically the de facto NIL collective of Florida State. There's other ones floating out there, but it feels like they're not really serious when it comes to it. Battle's End is really the big boy in the market for Florida State, and they seem to be making an impact on all the major sports within the university. It came to the attention that they've really partnered up with, I think, 6 major universities to form kind of an organization that is basically coming together to, I would say, not fight, but stand against the NCAA, as the NCAA is attempting to regulate NIL, as they really haven't done it in the last 3 to 4 years as it's become official. Because now they're setting up this fight where NCAA is starting to come in and say, well, we've kind of effed up and not done anything to regulate how universities and these organizations handle NIL, and this is how it should be run, because the NCAA has realized that it's kind of out of control, and there's state laws, and there's universities, and there's these collectives, and it's kind of the Wild West. And I think everyone understands that it's like that. And now the NCAA is like, oh, well, we're gonna start regulating this now. And I think we all realize that the cat's out of the bag, and it can't be undone. The Pandora's box is open. Everything's out. So I think Florida State has done the smart thing, and they have now banded up Battle's End, representing Florida State, essentially, has banded with Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, USC, Michigan, and Penn State to basically create an organization, or I think what they named is the Collective Association, TCA, and what they're calling, and I'll bring up the article, what they named in this article at Noles 24/7 as a trade association. Oops, sorry. But they're what am I doing? They created a trade association of sorts, and they're going to be basically making a stand. They want to come together with these major collectives across major programs and essentially set a standard of how these NIL should operate and how they should operate within states, and set a standards regulations so that they kind of can wall out the NCAA of sorts. Old man, am I saying anything wrong in terms of how this is standing? Here's the article. Noles 24/7 had a really good, and it says here, just before I let you go, and I think it states it, how they quote it is, the TCA, the trade organization, the collective association with these 6 schools, is to advocate for student athletes, share best practices, and act as a unified voice to shape the development of the NIL market and beyond. Because, like I said, it's been the Wild West across the entire NCAA landscape, and all these collectives, how they're working with students. High school kids are getting compensation in some states and they aren't in others. And it's really been collectives fighting over each other. And now these 6 major programs are coming together to say, we're going to work together to set a uniform practice that this is how we're going to work. This is how it should be run, and set up a kind of a uniform way of how this is, how it works, so the NCAA can't crack down on us. Is that how you understand this?
Well, yeah, I don't think you could say anything wrong, and I don't think I could say anything wrong, because it's such loosey-goosey right now. It's beyond, someone could fact check us against the article or whatever out there. We're just trying to give a fan perspective here that it's a Wild West show still. Now, I think you summarized it pretty good there, KB, in that FSU and the Battle's End, Ingram Smith, who is the CEO of Battle's End, I believe they've taken the lead on this. That's the impression I get, that they took the lead to try to bring this collective association, the TCA, together for a few reasons. Some of that, I think, erupted. I think there was some smoke out there involving Texas A&M. And Texas A&M kind of, I think the NCAA told them they could not do something, and They said, oh, yeah, we can because the state law of Texas says we can do it. And I don't want to get into what they did or didn't do. I don't have all those insights, and people can look it up if you want to. But Texas A&M kind of bucked it a little bit. Now, whether the TCA said this is our opportunity or we're already setting this up, I think it comes down to who's going to win these battles. Is it the NCAA? Is it state level? And I think the Battles End and the Collective Association are trying to define some standards that all universities can fall under. Okay? I mean, the NCAA, if I'm correct, they even kind of shouted out to the U.S. Congress and said, hey, we could use some regulation here or something. I mean, this thing is kind of crazy. Yeah. And we're only a few years in. But the Battles End and this group, these are heavyweight collectives that they've put together now. Part of it is their mission is to protect the athlete financially and to try to show them there's certain standards here as well. It's a difficult task. It's going to take a long time to come together. But the Battles End is what I would say, I think you used the word de facto, maybe that's the correct term. They are the official NIL for Florida State, based for football at least, because Mike Norvell endorsed them. Coach Norvell endorsed them earlier this year, okay, or late last year. And so this thing is loosey-goosey, but you're talking NCAA, you're talking state laws about how kids can be recruited and paid. Right now, anything can happen pretty much.
Well,
right now, if you stay within your state laws, if you stay, the state of Florida abides by state of Florida rules.
And previous months before, Florida had really bad state laws right now. Florida State had a not like behind.
They were behind. Yeah, they were behind.
It's opened up now, but they're
now a state like Texas, who drops to their knees just for high school ball and always have. They have a tradition, a big history, more than probably any other state. Maybe Alabama, maybe Georgia, but you know they're following their laws, and they get the laws they need because they got the alumni there in the state legislatures. Yeah, so I think it's going to be an interesting thing for us to follow. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we don't have a lot of other things, and the article didn't mention a lot. But I think it's something that it has a huge impact on college football moving forward, obviously.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me, and like you said, I think it's hard because I don't think the organization, the TCA, doesn't want to give away their end intention because, once again, they're trying to, kind of outmaneuver the NCAA. And I don't think anyone loves the NCAA. I certainly don't love the NCAA because I don't think it's an efficient organization. But to your point, Charlie Baker, who's the new president of the NCAA, said, quote, a big mistake for the NCAA was not to do a framework around NIL when they had the opportunity to do so. So now they're trying to backtrack and start, putting all these laws into place. And
what happened? There was this big void, and now the collectives have moved in to fill that void and start taking action. I think this is what's going to
working with the states. And let me finish. I think the TCA is filling that void, and they're saying, no, we got it. Like, they're filling that. They're blocking out, saying, no, we're the universities in the states. We'll work together. We'll set the rules. Screw the NCAA. We'll be the NCAA. We've been doing this for the last 3 years. We've been setting the standard. We've been working with the state. We've been working with the high schools. We've been working with the players. We'll set the standard. We don't need you guys. I think that is what's essentially happening. All the major programs, like we mentioned, Michigan, Penn State, Florida State, the USC, these are big time. Georgia, these are big time programs. And they're going to get more.
They want to expand.
Exactly. These are big time programs in big states in the South. Got Michigan in the North, but in the California, you got big states, big programs with a lot of money, with a lot of, like you said, alumni with connections. They are essentially trying to block out the NCAA from getting their tentacles back in to regulating this. And
I think it's very interesting too that one of the things, if I read it correctly, is they're trying to tell players that you can be a member of these collectives and be able to be compensated without becoming an employee of the university, yes, which has been talked about in the past. Yeah. I think a lot of these things will obviously probably be settled through lawsuits, because a lot of the NIL that we have today came about through the court systems and lawsuits. Yeah. So a lot of times that's where it ends up and the answers come from. Yeah. But I think it's an aggressive move by the Battle's End to try to get this group together. I don't want to give them all credit for taking the initiative, but I get the feeling maybe they were part of the driving force. I could be wrong there. I don't have any information on that.
I do think, regardless if it's true or not, I do think it's smart for Florida State to be on the forefront, because I do believe to keep competitive balance, to have a standardized way of how you can compensate, I think, be able to be on the forefront with Georgia, with USC, to say this is how we're going to work with athletes, with compensation-wise, stuff like that, so that you have the same competitive advantage as major programs.
Well, you just said it. Yeah,
I think they are smart to be at that table with those programs, so that
you almost have to have a person in the athletic department now, almost a legal person, a lawyer of sorts, who can totally monitor what is happening in these states that will support the competition of their colleges. Because if you're not doing that, you could be caught in a bad position, yeah, not in terms of NIL and in terms of competing. Yeah. And we've already heard that about the conferences and TV contracts. This thing is getting very complicated, and it's going to lead to competition differences.
But overall, I think this is, from my perception, I think this is good for Florida State, because if they're working with these big programs, yes, to keep on the same level as them, right, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, and we have no idea where this is going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's leave it at that. More news, I'm sure, will come out, but we'll keep track of it. We'll keep progress. If major updates come out, we'll react to it. But yeah, that's it for now. Let us know in the comments. Do you think it's a good move for Florida State? What are your thoughts on it? What are your interpretations of what's going on? What's the end goal here for the TCA? And how do you think it will affect Florida State competitively? We'll let you go from now. Subscribe, like the video, share with a friend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, y'all. Bye.
Go Noles.